Carbon. Travel has changed. We were forced into taking a hiatus, which left us wondering, do we really want to go back to how things were? Belching out tons of carbon dioxide as you open your world. All the ads in your face and the pressure piled on for you to book now. No thanks. But there is a better way to travel, a greener and cleaner way to bring the world within reach. If you really want to wake up happy, book your hotels on Goodwings. You'll never see an ad and we'll never pressure you to book. And when you book your hotel on Goodwings, we'll offset the carbon emissions from your entire trip for free. Yep, hotels, cars, trains, and even your flight. All neutralized, compensated, offset, whatever you want to call it. It's gone. The icing on the cake? Create a free profile and you'll get member rates on a whole world of hotels. And if you're a company, you can save even more money with Goodwings for Business. So what's not to like? No ads, no stress, money saved, and carbon neutral trips. Yes, travel has changed, but it's about time it did.
Hello, everyone. I think we're now live. A warm welcome to you all. A warm welcome to you, Marcel.
Hello, Christian.
Glad to have you with me for this live chat. Marcel and I, just for those watching, Marcel and I met in Mendoza, Argentina, amazing Argentina, a couple of years ago at the B Corp Summit. I think it was called Encuentro B, but for us who don't speak Spanish that well, the B Corp Summit in Latin America, and immediately connected. And I'm thrilled that you are spending some of your precious time with me and with us today. Marcel and I wrote a piece together, which is live on the Goodwings blog, speaking about net zero and the race to zero and the rebirth of the travel sector, and I thought that it would be a good opportunity to talk about these topics in this session. So, warm welcome to everyone. This is basically what we're going to talk about today. So, Marcel, in this piece that we have written together, you're talking about this historic global shift towards a new economy, and you're mentioning, terms like an inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economic system. For people who are not as involved as you and I are in the B Corp community, what does this mean? Can you put some words to it?
Absolutely, Christian. Firstly, thank you so much for this invitation. I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you, Josephine, also for articulating this space and all Goodwings team. I hope you all that are watching us today, that you are healthy and safe at home. I'm speaking from São Paulo in Brazil. We are facing the most dramatic moment in the pandemic. I'm so fortunate for having structure and privileged for working from home, but at some time mobilizing resources to support and help the most vulnerable families in our country and in our region. So as Christian said, we believe that we are living a global cultural shift, and particularly in business sector. So we have the power and the opportunity to use market-driven solutions to solve social and environmental problems and build an inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economic system. So this culture shift is a change of mindset, change in the way how we think and how we do things in business sector, and shifting business models for a more positive impact business model. When we say culture shift, we are talking about a whole new type of businesses, whole new type of corporations in business and society. And this business behave with three main elements: purpose, responsibility, and transparency. Their purpose to cause positive impact, responsibility with all stakeholders in your value chain, in your decision making, in short and long-term decision, and also the commitment with transparency. When you measure, manage, and report your triple impact. So these three elements combined are the new type of companies that we believe this culture shift is bringing, and together in our global community of over 3,800 certified B corporations that are behaving like this. And when we say that we want to build a more inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economic system, is because we are using the power of these market-driven solutions to build inclusive models in which we reduce inequalities, and also we address the climate crisis, as we're gonna be discussing in great part of our conversation. So this is our global collective vision, and we invite you all to join us at sustainably.org or bcorporation.net.
Wonderful. So basically, for those not so familiar with either Sistema B or B Corp, Sistema B is the sister organization, you can say, of B Corp.
Right? B Lab, yes.
B Lab, the organization, B Lab is the organization behind the B Corp assessment. And for those who are not familiar with those terms, my company, Goodwings, is a B Corp certified company. What that means is that we have gone through this rigorous assessment of social and social areas, governance, and many other aspects of the company, environmental concerns, of course. And you get certain points. If you get enough points, you can get your company certified. And then you need to recertify every, I believe, 2-3 years. We're being recertified next year. So what you're talking about really is a shift from a shareholder to a stakeholder economy, and taking into consideration, more stakeholders surrounding your business, and increasing your responsibility from your shareholders, your employees, but society as such. This is why I find the Sistema B and B Lab community so interesting, because ever since I started philosophy and business 20 years ago, this was exactly the essence of this. What is the role of business in society? Is it merely just a profit maximizing machine, or is it really a service mechanism to improve people's lives? Using the power of markets, capitalism as something, as a good thing, I think is a interesting topic, and gaining interest, increasing interest these years. Also because what you're also writing in our piece together, Marcel, is that the pandemic has exposed severe system failures and has given us the opportunity to rethink and redesign a strategy more in alignment with the 2030 agenda. Could you give us some examples and maybe elaborate a little bit on how you see this system failure?
Absolutely, Christian. As you are mentioning, the current capitalism model was really successful in creating wealth, but not necessarily distributing this wealth in our planet. So in the last 100 years, over 90% of the global population left the line of extreme poverty, which is amazing. However, what we've seen, mainly in the last recent decades, is a concentration of income, of equity, and also wealth. So that has created different distortions in our society. And beyond that, we have the climate crisis. Our footprint has been pretty high, and the pandemic also has shown us the impact of these footprint in both social and environmental dimensions. And we see a tremendous, unique, singular opportunity to promote an economic reactivation throughout the world, across different regions, that are a reactivation that is inclusive and regenerative. So Goodwings is a perfect example of a type of business that can lead this reactivation that is more inclusive and regenerative, because this is the type of company that has an impact business model in which it's designed by its nature to solve a social and environmental problem. So we have different examples in our global community, mainly companies that are operating in solar energy, or reducing inequalities in slums in emerging markets. This is the type of business that, if we support economic growth for these particular segments, these economic segments, we can build back better. We can use the power of these different segments to tackle the world's most pressing issues, inequality and climate crisis. And in order to do that, we have to influence the change in the rules of the game. We need public policies. We need market institutions to regulate and to incentivize businesses to solve such issues. So this is a bit about what we've worked on, and we need to move this work towards the 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, which is absolutely relevant and critical for the next 9 years.
So speaking about climate, we have this shared B Corp goal of net zero by I believe 500 and some B Corps. And I totally agree with you. I think we need regulation, but among others, we need new business models and tech breakthroughs, basically, that can help us achieve these goals. And one of the things that we saw in our industry, the travel industry, was that everyone is waiting for the tech breakthrough. Everyone is waiting with their enormous climate concern for a new way of traveling that is not contributing to the devastation of the planet, the extinction of species. But as we simply cannot sit and wait for someone else to solve it. What we saw was an opportunity to innovate on a business model level, as you also are describing. And for those of you not that familiar with Goodwings, what we do is, on the surface, we're like any other online hotel booking platform. We have the same 1 million hotels, comparable rates, but behind is the business model, which is fundamentally dedicated to changing the impact of travel. And what we do is we spend our sales commission from selling hotels, which is not a lot, but we spend all that money on calculating and removing the emissions of our clients so they can travel net zero, so they don't pay any extra for it. If you're wondering how can we make money, well, the businesses that we are primarily targeting then pay us a monthly service fee or membership fee to get certain features like reports, net zero certificates, and so on. So that's how we are scaling as a business and reaching profitability, is to get enough businesses to use our service. And Q1 has been a transitional period for us. We introduced net zero travel in January and has signed up so many new businesses in this first quarter, even though the entire world is still in a lockdown, which is amazing, but also a testament to an enormous, I don't know if you're experiencing this, we're sitting far from each other. You're in Sao Paulo, I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark, but there's an enormous climate momentum still going on. Why is this?
Well, lots of things going on. There is a consciousness in different sectors, different stakeholders. Consumers are more informed, more responsible, more conscious about their consumption behavior. Workers are more conscious about the purpose in work environment, in business model, in value chain. Investors mainly are also very aware of how their money is impacting the world in these different issues. So what we've seen in the pandemic, amid the pandemic, is a growth of investments in what we've called as ESG investments. ESG, it means environment, social, and governance. This is a type of investments in capital markets that's grown a lot. Just in 2020, the number of ESG index investments has grown over 40% just in 2020. Let's see 2021, which will be will continue grow. So there is a movement ongoing of change, and we see that the pandemic has created this perfect, between quotes, perfect context to promote a new economy that is inclusive and regenerative. And in this type of conversation, that is emerging different initiatives, and one of them that is highly interesting to follow is called the Race to Zero. And the Race to Zero is a global campaign involving different stakeholders, but mainly led by business leaders. And the Race to Zero is basically an invitation for all businesses to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030, which is 20 years before the Paris Agreement, which has been signed by over 200 countries. So this Race to Zero today, just to let you know, who is watching us, we have over 500 cities in 23 different regions across the world, almost 2,000 businesses, 85 of the biggest investors around the world, and almost 600 different universities. So it's pretty systemic approach. So these different actors mobilize together, implementing concrete actions, concrete, very objective practices, using a common language, committed with the race to be carbon neutral by 2030. So this is a really important momentum, and this is the largest corporate initiative ever done to face the climate crisis.
I agree. There's a momentum, and there is so many. This is a movement that you can become part of with your business, and I think it's important also to underline that it's a vision, and it's basically a desire to change the way we do business, and to race against this ambition of zero emissions, and there are many ways of doing it. I mean, obviously, what we need to do is reduce our emissions. That's the overarching target, is to reduce the emissions. As I was talking about earlier, in the travel sector, we're, as travelers, leisure and business travelers, we're in many ways limited because it's not up to us. It's not within our sphere of influence or control. So what can we do? Well, we can actually change how we travel. I see a lot of business leaders cutting down on business travel, and you wouldn't expect me to say it, but I applaud it. I love it. I think we should get rid of the business travels that is not, enormously important, and focus on the ones that are important. And also find new ways of transportation. If you travel within Europe, on many distances, you can go by, carpool together. Instead of flying from Copenhagen to Stockholm, 4 people join up in one car or take the train. Lower your emissions, and the emissions that you are not able to reduce, you have to take responsibility for it. And that's exactly what we are trying to enable, is to remove those emissions for people, for businesses and leisure travelers. And we do that through these VCS verified reforestation tree planting projects, you can say, which enables us to document the removal to our clients. So it's not just something that they have to trust us doing, they can actually see it and get the transparency needed to document it in their own business climate reporting as well. So thank you so much for putting a few words to net zero and the race to zero. So I mean, you're mentioning 2030 as the deadline, which means we have 9 years to go. So are you optimistic about this necessary shift?
Well, I am, because on my daily basis, I see business leaders like you and different business across different sectors and industries taking action towards the 2030 agenda in a very concrete way. And the way how we combine the walk with the talk is through a very concrete assessment, very concrete tool to support businesses in their management and also in their governance to take concrete and very practical action towards the 2030 agenda. So the B impact assessment, which is the assessment that Christian mentioned that we Goodwings went through, is a very specific, very concrete tool to support you to see, hey, in this race to zero, where am I? What are the practices that I have that are already in good shape? What are the other practices that I have to redesign or even implement in my business model, in my work environment, in my community, or in my governance, these different dimensions. So ultimately, the B impact assessment is a tool to support companies to be a better company every single day. So because of that, we are very confident, because we are, among other actors in the ecosystem, we are offering and supporting this transition in a very concrete way, and that brings hope, and that brings also a very pragmatic way to address the world's most pressing issues today.
Is that one of the major barriers, really, when you talk to business leaders who want to take this leap but really don't know how to do it or where to go? Is that to make it as concrete as possible?
Yeah, definitely. There is a cultural shift, as we were mentioning before, and the consciousness is pretty much aligned, or a great part of the sector is aligned that we have to change. And the problem is not if we have to change, it's when we have to change. And we have a sense of urgency. And the problem to address when we have this type of question is how we change. Because if we have to change, it's no matter a question anymore, because there is no other option. We are suffering in different places around the world the causes and the effects, the consequences of the current model that brought us here. So the problem is how. And the work that we've done globally with over 1,000 businesses, 100,000 businesses, is to provide concrete tools to combine the walk with the talk, and to avoid and mitigate the effects of the greenwashing or ESG washing, and support companies to make concrete decisions and actions in a very consistent and coherent way.
Wonderful. I think one of I totally agree. I think as to how is probably the largest, the biggest barrier. So if you can provide access to information, but also inspiration, I think more than half of the business leaders that I met in the last quarter who signed up on our net zero travel service, they all had the same question, that they were, they didn't really know how to frame it, but they wanted to ask me, how is it possible that I can get the same hotels, same price levels, but you basically take care of our emission problem? You pay to remove it for us. And the reason is we don't spend very much money on advertising. Our competitors are spending, pile them all together, around $45 billion every year. So this is our impact potential. Imagine if we had, if everyone booked hotels with Goodwings, we would be able to funnel $45 billion into climate change mitigation. That would be, I believe, the largest single initiative ever seen. And it's obviously it's never going to happen, but at least if we can get some of the way, we can have a massive impact on by removing vast amounts of carbon from the atmosphere, which is needed. So I think also Sistema B and B Lab is doing a great job, not only providing tools, but also very open to inspiring people. I myself, I find new business opportunities all, through your network all the time. And it's not that it costs more. Sometimes you can even save money by just doing things smarter or more planet friendly.
That's it, Christian. I'm so glad to have this conversation with you, because you are part of an industry that has been really affected by the pandemic. People really had to stop traveling, had to stop, moving ourselves across the planet. And one thing that I truly enjoyed writing the piece with you, and when we were reflecting about this conversation, was the expression that you brought, the rebirth of the travel sector. So I think this is pretty much aligned with what we've called as the reactivation or recovery, and particularly in the travel industry, rebirth. So I'd love to hear from you also how you see the industry overall rebirthing, and the role of Goodwings, particularly to inspire other industry actors to follow the way and the path that you've gone through.
Thank you for that question, and obviously it's something that I'd love to answer. I think to a large extent we will be going back to traveling as we did. Unfortunately, I think as the world opens up, I think a lot of people and a lot of businesses will just be traveling a lot because they want to and they need to. We hope to be the enabler of a change in travel, because the world, travel and tourism accounts for almost 10% of all emissions. At the same time, it's an industry which many people depend on. It employs also around 10% of the global workforce. 300 million people are now suffering. Their families are suffering. So, of course, we need to get this industry back on track. And I think businesses can also acknowledge that they need to go and meet their suppliers and vendors and go to conferences and so on. But we need to change the way we travel, and we need to take responsibility. It's not enough to stand in the supermarket and look at, should I buy meat or should I go and buy some, vegetables? This is something that you see a lot in the Nordic region at the moment, which is like meat supplements, which is fantastic. But, the footprint of a family flying economy to the Maldives and back is twice the amount of CO2 that one Dane emits in a year. So we need to look at the way we travel. And I do hope that COVID has provided us with months of reflection. I think we want to go back to travel. We need those experiences. And I think there's a need to change the way we travel, and we hope to be part of the transition. You can say, out of the last crisis, what came out was Airbnb. Airbnb came out of the financial crisis, as I recall, in 08, 09. We hope to come out of this crisis strong. It looks like we're coming out strong, but we need more business leaders to go and partner with us. And we were just waiting to make that change happen. Yeah. So overall, we're quite optimistic, but I think we still have a way to go. As Goodwings, as Sistema B, as a global society, we have a way to go still, a long way to go to fundamentally change the way we do business and the impact of business on society and the planet, right? We don't have a carbon tax, so we're not internalizing the negative impacts on the planet into products and services that we're buying. This is the extractivism that has been built into the old economy, the old type of capitalism. We can just use the resources of this world for our own wealth. And I think the election in Greenland right now is quite interesting, Marcel. I don't know if you're following it, but one of the underdog parties has supposedly won the election, and they're against mining in Greenland. and mining represents growth and welfare and income. And of course, the people on Greenland want to have access to more, to new revenue streams so they can increase their level of wealth. And everybody appreciates that. But I think what's interesting is that they're reflecting on what's most important. How can we design the economy of Greenland? Should we go and invest in tourism, or should we go and invest in mining, which might bring more money on a short term, but could leave, Greenland in a totally different place with very negative, environmental consequences. So I think very interesting election to follow, and potentially a microcosmos really for the dilemma that we're all going to face at some point. Should we just continue growth for growth's sake, or should we try to find new ways of having more sustainable growth, where we can actually, maintain or increase our living conditions that pull people out of poverty without destroying the planet?
It's a very important point, and I see that we are building infrastructure for this conversation. You mentioned something that is really important for all businesses, which is how we internalize our externalities. So for those who are watching us, externalities, basically the impact, the indirect impacts that you have in your business that is not internalized in your model or in your price. For instance, a bottle of a water bottle when you buy, how will you throw away, how will you treat this waste is part of the externality of the water company or the beverage company. So I see in this decade, Christian, the true need to build infrastructure for this conversation, designing, implementing verifiable, comparable, credible metrics for social and environmental impact. This is particularly the same progress that we had in the last century. After the 29 crash, we had to design new financial metrics. We had to implement standards, financial standards, accountable standards, accounting standards for financial statements, for instance, to mitigate risk, for instance, financial risk. For now, to bring the impact dimension to investment, which is now combined with impact, return, and risk, we have to build infrastructure by designing and implementing these metrics. And again, that's why the work of B Corp is so important, because if you go to bigcorporation.net, you're going to see the big impact report of over 3,000 businesses using comparable metrics of these different impact dimensions. So I see that for these next 9 years, a key milestone that we have to working on is to design and implement these metrics, definitely.
I think we'll leave that as the final remark. I don't know how to counter that final comment. I think it was perfect set. So if people are still watching this, I know we stole more than half an hour of your time. We greatly appreciate it. I think it's necessary to have more of these talks around net zero. And I think you, Marcel, thank you so much for joining forces with me in this lovely discussion. I think you gave some good examples of how and why. I hope also Goodwings can serve as an example for new entrepreneurs who want to innovate and redesign their industries. I'm always open for helping others. You can find me on LinkedIn. Everyone who is looking back at traveling, including business leaders, go to Goodwings and join forces with us. We'd love to enable you to travel net zero too. Thank you so much, Marcel.
Thank you so much, Christian. Thank you all. Take care.
Bye.